Eid Mubarak. Good evening and welcome on the spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. Yesterday, President Yoweri Museveni swore in for the 6th time to stretch his time in office for 40 years. He spent most of the time talking about Africa's need to unite so that it can survive economically and security-wise. The president also told the people of Uganda to move on because electioneering is over. But what is Museveni's term going to be like from 2021 to 2026? To discuss this and all more, I have a top NRM cadre, the Honorable Captain Francis Babu, and the NUP Secretary General David Louis Lubongoya. David and Francis, thank you so much for having honored our invitation, and I think I should once again say Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak. And in Tanzania now they say something which is very interesting. They say Assalamu alaikum and they say Yezu asifiwe. They say the two together.
Oh, I don't want to go there because...
Assalamu alaikum, say Yezu asifiwe.
Okay.
So the Christians, you greet them, and the Muslims, you greet them.
Ah, okay. Differently.
Yeah.
All right. Let me actually begin with you, Captain Francis Babu, because there's no doubt President Yoweri Museveni is a Pan-Africanist.
Yes.
Which we also talked about when he came to power. In fact, it was a part of the 10-point program he came with. But for him yesterday, after swearing in, to spend the biggest part of his speech largely ignoring the country and focusing on the continent, what was that about?
Well, it's very difficult to delve into somebody's speech. They must
but for us, we will listen to it.
Yeah, what I think his view was, having had a lot of visitors from the African continent, including the chairman of the African Union, he was, I think, concerned that the African, the African Union has now started an African trade market. They have got a market for Africa. There's a market for East Africa. There is minerals in Africa. And a lot of these are being exploited by our friends with no regards at all to the owners of these So the narrative, in my opinion, is to talk about Africa and how we can guard ourselves, and at the same time how we can benefit from the rich resources of Africa. And I think it was going to most of those heads of state. And then, how do you protect that? I think basically that's where he was going. And first of all, he talked about the example of Libya, and talked about a few others. But if you look at Africa, right from independence time, around the 1960s, there's a litany of assassinations of leaders of Africa. And unfortunately, those assassinations are carried out on behalf of those people in the West by our own people. Now, we need to sit down and see, if we're talking about Africa, that is, I'm talking about Pan-Africanism. We need to look at Africa generally. And then we can come down to regional government. Because the argument of uniting the whole of Africa between Nkrumah and Nyerere was, Nkrumah thought they would start with the regional integration and then go on to the African Union. Fine. All that was said yesterday. Now, his theme there, I think, was to talk about what he thinks should come into his next term, where I think he's waking up to the occasion that he can no longer talk about power politics. He's got to talk about developmental politics. Now, this is extremely important, this part. Does Museveni now have to talk about power politics? Because this is what has been in this country for many years, power politics. Or is he going to talk about developmental politics?
Wait a minute there, because the case of Libya,
yes.
He's saddened by the collapse of the state of Libya after the demise of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. But really, Libya is collapsing not because Gaddafi could not stand militarily. In my view, Libya collapsed because Gaddafi could not build democracy, Gaddafi could not build institutions. Is President Museveni blind to the fact that the country, Libya and others, are down because they could not build democratic institutions?
No, that's your narrative.
No, but
no, the narrative on the other side is that the forces against him were too big. First of all, United States created the Islamic nation. Secondly, they created the French.
You don't borrow the argument that democratic institutions can actually help for the survival of Africa.
Oh, they can't.
We don't have bombs. We don't need bombs and bullets and mortars. All you need is institutions and democracy.
My brother, we've had democratic countries which have been overthrown and the army has taken over. And one of them is Ivory Coast. Not only that, even others have. In Africa, where very good states which were doing very well, governments were overthrown. So we have to be very, very careful when we're talking about this.
Yes, the governments are overthrown
I think
because democracy is wobbly.
First of all, your democracy you're talking about is a borrowed democracy. Now, if you want us to go there, we'll go there. The democracy you borrowed from these white people cannot work in this country.
You do not believe that the strength and survival of our nations will depend on true democracy and institutions. You don't believe that?
Yes, I do believe
isn't
it.
That
I do believe it.
Isn't that what he should advise his colleagues? Isn't that what he should advise his colleagues in North Africa? To have democracy.
Kamara, where does democracy start? You think you have democracy in these African countries which are not united? You are talking about symptoms of the problems of your nation. Now, if you want us to talk about Uganda, I will talk to you.
Well, if there's no democracy in Uganda, I'm going to agree with you.
No, because you have not united.
You're an NRM cadre.
You have not.
So there's no democracy here.
No, being an NRM cadre means that I've got my views. It does not mean that I walk in a suitcase. And you people have to be careful with this. You take all of us to be the same. No. We also have our views and we have brains. The problem with your country is not only democracy. You have failed to unite this country from 1962. You've never had a united country. And therefore your democracy will only slide on top. If you want your democracy to become, to go and have roots, you've got to stop this unfortunate problem we have in this country. 1, of regionalism. 2, of tribalism. 3, of selfishness. 4, of greed. Now all these things have to be fought. Not only by us, by the whole political class. You have a tendency to believe that there's one class that doesn't want it. No, the whole political class in this country has to stop for a moment and say, how do we build democracy in this country? You do not have that democracy you're talking about. You have not got it there. Even America has not got it there. You have to build it.
But I think the chairman of your party was being disingenuous by telling us all we needed was the army, continental way, the kind of army to stand up against the West. We don't need mortars and bombs. No, we don't need bullets and guns.
That's a misinterpretation.
No, because that's a misinterpretation. He said if
protecting yourself does not mean that's what you need. That's protecting yourself. For goodness sake, Kamara, stop twisting these things around. Let's get what the man said. If we had enough continental army, what happened in Libya would not have happened. He's saying, can we protect ourselves? Use these democratic things you're talking about are theoretical. Listen, we do not. We have not built.
You cannot tell us that you want to stand militarily against the global West when total Africa's, for example, global trade is only 3%. It begins with their GDP.
I didn't realize that America's brainwashed you.
No, it hasn't.
America went to Vietnam. America went to Vietnam and they came with their tails between their legs.
The reality is, if you build institutions and build democracy, then that can give us survival. Than trying to project the force that you don't have.
Thank you very much. You said build. Build what?
If you build institutions.
How do you do that? It takes time. It doesn't happen out of a hat.
NRM has had 35 years.
You are thinking about getting a rabbit out of a hat. 35 years is not enough for a democracy. Britain has had 850 years. It has never perfected it. United States is 300 years. Never perfected it. We have to build it. I agree with you. How long does it take? That's another question. We have to build democracy. I agree with you entirely. I'm with you, hand in hand.
So when you came to town in 1986, did you really envisage that President Yoweri Museveni was going to stretch his leadership of a country for 40 years?
No. I do not have even that. I do not even have an imagination of that.
So you're duped?
No, we're not duped. For goodness sake. We went from a country which was no longer a state. They built foundations, they put it up. We went from a movement system, we made a constitution, we came into it, we all started elections. There are people who have been playing in that constitution, I agree, but that doesn't mean we did not do anything.
All right, let me bring in David.
I don't agree with you there.
Let me bring in David here. David, I suppose you listened to the president because he's an elected leader. Just in case you didn't, perhaps you have you have had information going through in different platforms. What do you make of the president's speech, and what do you see envisaged supposed to happen 2021, 2026? Well, you thought you'd be the ones in State House and Tebe, but you are not.
Well, good evening to the viewers once again, and Eid Mubarak to all our brothers and sisters of the Islamic faith. First of all, I want to completely disagree with you when you describe General Museveni as a Pan-Africanist. I think that's a complete lie. He cannot be a Pan-Africanist. Secondly, you say he's an elected leader. I can tell you, and I can just say it on record, that General Museveni was not elected by the majority of the people of Uganda. Every Ugandan, be it a young child in this country, so what happened on the 14th of January, that is not an election that you can talk about. But above all, look at all despots on the African continent. When they fail to deal with the problems at home, they hide under the shadow of Pan-Africanism. You can talk about Gaddafi, you can talk about Hosni Mubarak, you can talk about Mugabe and all these others. So when you talk about General Museveni focusing his speech on Pan-Africanism and all that, that's what they do because they cannot answer the citizens. He was swearing in while citizens, our comrades, are at Chitaria and in safe houses. Just yesterday and the day before, over 100 people were just arrested, picked up and taken, and you saw the kind of atmosphere in the country, where, you know, guns everywhere. No citizens were not in celebration. They were, the country is definitely in mourning. Now, someone goes, swears in, how is he expected to talk about the conditions in the country? Look at the economic conditions of our people, the poverty, the disease, the national debt, which is skyrocketing every other day. The national debt that does not correspond to the services that the people of this country get and the people of this country deserve. So what can he talk about? And he has had 35 years, they've had 35 years. Come on, I'm just hearing the Honorable Babu here talking, and I feel very betrayed because he's a senior leader in this country. We have a constitution which promises democracy. You cannot come here and say that that's just theoretical. This is what he promised his country. General Museveni, in his earlier years, said that the problem with Africa was leaders who overstay in power. Those were his own words. So how can you now say that, you know, all of a sudden that does not count, that we need somehow 300 years to be able to become democratic? But that is what they swore to do. And that is what our constitution promises. Now, if you say we have a constitution in place, which constitution means nothing more than the paper on which it is written, I mean, you cannot talk about. So when you talk about the next 5 years, I don't want to look at the next 5 years, because for us, as the forces of change, what we're involved in is a struggle for change, a struggle for liberation, to get our country from this malaise and liberate it.
You know, Captain Francis Babu, I'm inclined to believe what David is talking. Like, when you've run out of what to actually tell the people of Uganda, then you go into generalities of Africa. Because here, there's the issue affecting the people. Like, for example, one clear example in the health sector, health services. If somebody fell sick, God forbid, today, and you are admitted in any of these hospitals in Kampala, even if you are a corporate Ugandan, you may need to sell your own land because you cannot afford.
Unfortunately, Kamara, the narratives of my friend here has been the same. It's like a song. It keeps repeating itself, like a dead record. You have to be very careful. First of all, he has lied that I said 300 years. I told you United States has had 300 years and they've never perfected democracy. Britain has had 800 years. I would not say Uganda needs 300 years. Now, that's the problem they have. They keep twisting everything somebody says. I'm telling you, yes, we have to build democracy. Yes, it is in our constitution. Yes, how many of those tenets of democracy have we achieved so far? On the road to democracy, how far are we on that road? To me, that's how I speak. I do not go with my friend here, nor do I go with anybody else. I'm telling you, we have a democratic process. The question, apart from electing every 5 years, what else do we have in that, in the ingredients of democracy? What else do we have in there? Another point, please don't deceive yourself. President Museveni swore yesterday. Whether you like him or you don't, he's now the president of this country. You have to find another narrative to, and by the way, I don't agree with my brother here. He keeps on giving us numbers, but he's never proved it to us. It is talk. It's hot talk. He went to court, he withdrew. He came out, then he said, this man has never won. I want him to prove to me that this man has never won these elections. He has not proved to me. I'm a citizen of Uganda. I am not tied to Museveni like a little dog. No, if he can prove to me that Museveni never won those elections, not only by talking, not by social media, which they are very good at, I want him to actually show me that Museveni did not win. Now, from that point on, when you keep on saying, I like to agree with him, I like to agree with that. No, yes, I agree. There are a lot of problems in this country. And I'm one of those who have been fighting those very problems you're talking about. We are talking about building this country. Now, let me give you a very quick, a small thing, if you'll allow me. The old Greeks had categorized their citizen into three. They had a citizen called an idiot, not deficient in the mind, but idiot, I'll just define it for you. Then there was the tribalist. Then there was the citizen. Three of them. The idiot was a man who was self-centered, a man who was greedy, a man who only wanted for himself everything. A man, if he came to our government today, he would do completely the wrong things that you don't want to hear. Then we had a man who was a tribalist. He lived, a tribalist not by the tribes like we come from, but tribalist was defined as people who belong to a group, and he only thought about that group, and a thing like if he was religion, he would only belong to that religion. The last one was the citizen. Now, that's what we want to get. In Africa, according to the statistics, we are not even 10%, the people who really love these countries. Now, after we've gone there, let me put it this way. In this country, I agree, there are some bad and good people. And even in my party, there are some bad and good people. Even in other parties. Now, the political class in this country is not doing us a favor. And I'm not going only to go to NRM. I'm talking about the whole political class, so, okay, including Rubongoya, by the way.
So what kind of winning was it when you have members of the military involved in the campaigns? What winning was that when you have the military shooting at people November 19th on the street, killing 50 people? What kind of winning was that when you have the major opposition leader incarcerated in his home? What winning was that when about more than 50 or 100 people are picked by the military, arrested in ungazetted places of detention? What winning
Kamara,
was that?
if you want to change the government by force, it's going to fight you back.
No, if people have committed a crime, Captain Francis Babu, arrest them, take them in known places of detention, take them to court. If they lose the case, send them to Luzira. You cannot be a government and get involved in abducting your own people.
You brought two issues. What happened in November and the people who were arrested. Let's tackle each one.
The whole process is rigged.
No.
Maybe I need to help
Let's tackle each one.
If I could come in.
Let's tackle each one. What happened in November was a riot. A riot that you do not have all the facts. You only have the pictures that you saw. What is behind? That's what we would like to know. You would like to know, don't you? You would like to know why the police and the army had to react the way they did. Why don't you talk about the police stations which were burnt? Why don't you talk about a judge who was molested in Ruero? Why don't you talk about a court which was desecrated?
Because I saw children who were shot dead. I saw senior citizens who were shot dead.
I was going to there.
Unarmed civilians shot dead. I saw a disproportionate use of force on the streets of Kampala and blood on our streets.
I was going there. You did not allow me. Whenever you have a confrontation between armed people and civilians who are also using other methods to fight the armed people, there is bound to be people who, unfortunately, who get hurt in that situation. And in this case, you are right. There were people who were hurt, who were not supposed to be in that game. Yes, there are people who were hurt, and it's unfortunate. And the government admitted that there are people who died, and there are people who unfortunately died who were not supposed to be there. They did admit. And it's very unfortunate that a lot of our people died that day. Now, from there, I would have wanted a true story. Why are these people arrested and taken to that prison you're talking about? I'm sorry, I don't know where it is even. Kitalia, is it Kitalia? Why are they there? I cannot answer, unfortunately, because I'm not in the security services.
He's a Secretary General of the major opposition political party in Uganda today.
Yes.
He has seen firsthand, in fact, he has seen firsthand you know, the harassment by members of the security organizations in Uganda. The ground that is not leveled. You made it very difficult for them just to come out and campaign.
Yeah, but you
could not even allow somebody to pay money and go on a radio station and talk about his manifesto.
To every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction.
I wish it was even equal.
No. Let's be very careful. Whenever you carry out a certain action and you are using a certain approach, that approach will have a reaction. I am not saying it is good, but there was a reaction. Whatever these people were intending to do.
So what equal reaction is that when a 16-year-old child is shot dead?
No, that's unfortunate.
But this is the pattern.
What they call that when there is a stray bullet and kills somebody, there's a word in English they use.
Collateral damage?
Yeah, collateral damage. Yes, I agree.
So all of them were collateral damage?
Not all of them. They admitted others were collateral damage and others were not. They admitted.
All right.
The government admitted. That's the whole point. But they might have admitted incorrectly without giving us the right numbers.
David, you say the president was not legitimately elected. But maybe where exactly do you base, by the way?
Well, first of all, before I even answer that question, and I really wish I would get as much time as he gets to put his points across. You know, for me, this is the greatest betrayal to our nation. For senior citizens, really to come up, and they're justifying clear things which any other logical person can see are completely wrong. And I hope that we can improve, because when a senior citizen comes here and in a way starts justifying the murders of the people that we saw on the streets, people moving in sandals with guns shooting randomly at citizens of this country, and he says that the government came out and acknowledged, up to now, no one has been charged in a court of law in relation to that incident. No one has been, arraigned before a court of law. There has been no accountability whatsoever. They say they are investigating, but he knows people were killed in Kasese a few years back. No accountability. No one has been charged. In fact, the people who commandeered that operation have only been promoted. People were killed during the Kayunga riots here, the protests that happened during the Kayunga times, and there has been no accountability. So I expect the least you would expect from a person who wants to describe himself as a senior citizen is an acknowledgement that we are headed to a very, very wrong direction. But about the winning, you ask the right questions to him. He needs to understand that an election is just not an event. And I would expect him to understand that. He just talks about the numbers. Yes, the numbers are in our favor, first of all, and we put the numbers out there. Our website was attacked and put down. Even up to now, if you check it, it is still down because we are trying to upload these DR forms, and our website went down.
So David, you really want to mean that in all of these districts of the regions, because in Buganda, yes, you won in Buganda and parts of Busoga, we have a parliament of almost 500, and Loop has about 60 members of parliament. Really, you have districts about 146. I don't know how many chairpersons of district chairperson you have. You have youth leaders in parliament. 5 of them, all of them NRM. I find it very difficult to believe that all those people voted for NRM, but on the presidency they voted for.
No, but that's what we're talking about. It's an environment. Remember that we are dealing with
you're talking about the numbers, because the numbers on the day, because it really doesn't add up.
No, I'm talking about 2 things. First of all, an election is just not about the numerics. It's also about the environment. And when you talk about the environment, if you look at, for example, the disenfranchisement, the levels of intimidation, our candidates, kidnapped and abducted. Our candidates in northern Uganda, several of them were just kidnapped, and they later showed up after elections were done. Our agents, our supervisors who we sent across the country were just chased off polling stations, arrested, and kept away. So that kind of environment happens or occurs both for the president, but also for members of parliament. I can tell you that even the challenges you get, for example, how much money are you expected to pay for nomination fees? NRM, using government resources, will pay for all its candidates, and therefore will be able to field candidates for all positions across the country. In our case, people are struggling because the levels of poverty. NUP is essentially a political party of young people, as you can imagine. These are people who were just coming out to try their best, put their foot forward.
Yeah, that's what I want you to maybe to confirm. On a polling day, NUP did not have enough numerical strength to have more votes than Museveni.
It actually did. It actually
so
did.
You are telling us that you got only 60 members of parliament in a house of 500. They think the others are overwhelming NRM, and that in all those constituencies, they voted for other MPs, but when it came to the presidency, they voted for Honorable Chagulanyi.
What I'm trying to explain to you is that the same rigging that happened for the president happened for members of parliament. When the military was sent to a polling station, for example, to carry out ballot stuffing and whatever they did not only do it for the president, they did it for the members of parliament as well. So when we talk about these...
By the way, there are some places where you didn't even have candidates.
That's what I was trying to explain to you from the start. I said that when the playing field is not leveled, these are the challenges you get. And I gave an example. I told you that, for example, when we as NUP, we had only 3 months from the time we unveiled the party to going into these elections and everything like that. But we were able to get over 350 candidates who expressed interest in that short time that we had. But I can tell you that by the time of nominations, those who could even afford the money were about 240 out of the 350 that had initially expressed interest. Why is that so? Because the NRM will go and pay 3 million shillings, which the government, which NRM, of course, NRM and the government in this country is one and the same thing. Every citizen knows it. They pay for them, they pay for their candidates at all other levels, and then the opposition is expected. So that's the environment we're talking about, that you do not have nomination fees. Honorable Chagulanyi, our presidential candidate, how is he expected to mobilize people? And we could see the patterns that where he was able to reach, whether for a campaign rally or whether for previously when he was still allowed to do music shows, we had many people expressing interest even to run under the party. But as you know, he was not allowed to carry out consultations, which are within the law. He was not allowed to move even for burials. One time we went and attended a Thanksgiving party in Kasanda district, and the moment we showed up, the DPC came and declared the meeting illegal. So how are you expected to mobilize, to get candidates, to get people coming to participate in elections on the opposition when actually these people treat citizens in that way? So,
Honorable Captain Francis Babu, you're saying democracy is a process, you have to keep perfecting it, really. If we are taking baby steps in our journey for democracy, people like you and the NRM should be nurturing this system, trying to water it, helping it grow, but not to stifle it.
First of all, Rongo, you have to be very careful when talking to some of us. I do not justify anything. I do not agree anything which is wrong. I condemn. I'm one of the very few people in NRM who condemns. I don't agree with you because your narrative, all of it is wrong. You keep on lying to the whole of Ugandans about yourselves. You put yourself as very people who have had it. But we know very well you are receiving money from abroad. And you received it in dollars, and some of it was caught by the government. Now wait a minute, I'm coming. I'm coming. Let me talk. He said I was talking, but yours were allegations also. All the things you are talking are actually allegations. You never speak the truth.
You wanted him to substantiate, so
he couldn't substantiate.
So you do.
Did he substantiate?
Because
you asked him a very good question that all members of parliament went through. He said they rigged for them. That is oil. In fact, some of their members were paid for by NRM. And today, I want you to be very careful, Rubongoya. In fact, today you disappointed me. I am one of the very few people who condemn anything that is wrong. But I will not agree with you when all the people like us tell you, please go slowly. You are a very good upcoming politician. In fact, let me tell you, I am one of the very few after they had won who said, I am happy the system they used worked and they got votes in certain areas. I supported that. But I am not going to accept when they say wrong things that I keep quiet. No. And in fact, I'm going to guide them. If they want to win the next elections, they have to change their approach. You do not go every time to play around with government. And you think you can play games.
What do you mean?
Let me give you an example. When they went to Chambogo, when they were going to Chambogo, they were given a route, each one of them, including President Museveni. You go here, you come back, you go to your area. And if you want to go and give your manifesto, we shall also escort you there. In their case, they were given a route they did not want to use. And when they got to after they had been, they realized if they did not follow the route, they might not even be registered. They got there late. They were registered. After they registered, they did not want to follow the route to go back where they came from. They wanted to go somewhere else, and they created a scene so that all the media in Uganda would say that they were against their leader.
Oh my goodness.
These are the kind of games they play. And by the way, let me tell you, stage management games,
I saw people who were clobbered so badly. Captain Francis Babu.
Wait a minute.
I saw people
that they were supposed to go back to their home.
Whose clothes were ripped off their bodies.
So Captain Francis Babu now is a prophet.
Excuse me. When you box a policeman, when you remove his mask, you don't think the policeman is going to go after you? Tell me.
He's a prophet. He knows what we are planning to do.
Let us try. But you're the one who's
no.
You're the one who's a prophet.
You just said no. You just said, Captain.
No. I'm an old man. I am telling you, you have to change your stance.
No.
You have to change your approach.
Please.
You are doing very well. You did very well in Buganda. You did very well. The narrative was accepted. Your ploys were accepted. Your tactics were accepted.
No.
Now it is time that you change your tactics and ploy and stop everybody who talks about you and tells you what's not right. You try to vilify him.
First of all, let me just come in and say this.
No, don't vilify people.
Let me just quickly respond to this. First of all, this narrative that you young people.
No.
General Museveni, when he went to the bush.
Do you mind if I tell you something before give me a minute. I want to tell you something. No, I want to tell him something. In 1962, the people who took over the government were young. The eldest was 37. The second one was 35. The others were all below 30.
So now,
exactly. So what's the point?
Let me come. The people who took government, even with Amin, were young. The people who came from the bush here were all young. All right, are you with me? So when this young thing, I know, I'm coming up because he's trying to use this thing about the young and old.
But you're the one who just said that I'm trying to explain it.
Throughout.
So why are you scared of young people this time around?
Who is scared? The people in our party, you were here, Kamara. We had Young Parliamentarian Association. We had PAFO. These two produced a party, and some of them now control NRM. We've never been afraid of them because we have a league of the youth.
Well, I really hope that this debate can be a bit more civil. But let me just say this. The narrative, I mean, he keeps throwing around the narrative, you young people, be patient. And I can tell him that when Museveni and his people took to the bush, they were young people, they were impatient. And they said, we must change this country. These people now, having been in power for all these years, you know, like the late Right Honorable Elia Kategaya said, they are now living unrealistic lives, and they're just living in some form of unrealistic existence. They are completely detached from reality, and when you hear him speak, you see a person who is completely detached from the reality. How can he say, for example, that we are trying to do a stand outside Chambogo? When Honorable Chagulanyi followed the route, he went, was nominated, and he was, arrested right at the, I cannot even call it an arrest. He was literally abducted right outside the gate of Chambogo, where the nomination venue was. How can he say that we are trying to play a stand? And that's why I asked, is he a prophet? He says, they were planning to, to do something else. I do not know how he can even say that. Yesterday, they had an event.
But Captain Francis, that was true because...
Let me explain something also.
They were captured right there at Chambogo before they could even exit.
They wanted to go to Kamocha instead of going back to Magere. Let's be honest.
But
let him be honest.
You see, and let me just remind him.
And the police said, no, this is the route you follow. And he refused.
This is very interesting that they wanted. How would you even conclude that this is what they wanted to do?
It was even on TV. Let them bring the footnotes.
Okay, you conclude your
anyway,
point.
The other point I was making was, and I really, really hope that we can have leaders of integrity, people who will come and speak the truth for what it is. Yesterday at Kololo, they invited 4,000 people. We are facing the second strain of COVID-19. These people were clobbering us left, right, and center, and saying that campaign meetings must be restricted to 200 people. Everywhere we went, we were tear gassed, people were killed, people were shot, dead, in the name of COVID-19. And yesterday, all of a sudden, it was as if there's no COVID. Right after the election, you saw Yoweri Museveni move from his home, and they tried to put some people together in towns to assemble and that kind of thing. There were no masks. All of a sudden, it was as if the pandemic is done and gone. Look at the enforcement of curfew. It only applies when there is a political situation. When they feel either threatened or they think there are likely to be protests, they come up with a statement. Now curfew will be imposed strictly, will be enforced strictly. Other times, it's as if it is not there. So honestly speaking, the double standards, and someone comes and does not seem to even have an inkling of that kind of situation. So Patrick, the Ugandans who are watching us out there, I believe they know the truth. They saw the kind of violence we went through. They know that what we had was not an election. And let me tell you something. They keep talking about, oh, you won in Uganda. Come on. I can tell you that in northern Uganda and western Uganda, there was literally no voting. We had a call center, and I can tell you, I do not know how many calls we received on that day. And people who are watching us from those areas can tell you what was going on in those areas. People, soldiers coming and, putting in ballot papers, the overwhelming levels of ballot stuffing and all that. But also, we presented to the nation several, because we could not put everything out there, but we have in our possession, and some of them we made them public.
Why couldn't you replicate the formula in Uganda to other parts of the region?
Because the levels of consciousness and the security deployments and other factors.
How about the level of support?
No, I mean, the point I'm making is, for example, if you look at the levels of consciousness, and that's what we get to see, that everywhere dictators normally rig a lot more in the peripheral areas. And that is why, if you look at the way they announce results here, they always begin with Nakapiripirit, they begin with Kabong, because that's where they do most of the rigging. In more urbanized areas, it is much more difficult. And I'm not saying that even in Uganda there was no rigging. There was violence, there was rigging, there was that. But the levels of consciousness and the ability of citizens to stand their ground was higher. And so most of the rigging took place in northern Uganda, in western Uganda, and far east.
All right.
And like I said, I just wanted to finish this point. We put out there several DR forms where, sometimes Honorable Chagulanyi's votes were given to a person like John Katumba. In some cases, Honorable Chagulanyi gets 200 votes at a polling station, and they just remove the 2, and it remains 0-0. Some of these, we put them out there, and they're available for anyone to see.
All right, David and Captain Bob, we're going to take a break, and on this, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guests tonight are Honorable Captain Francis Babu and David Louis Rubongoya. Now, I saw the president talk about the young people during his speech after the swearing in, and he said, the young people in the ghetto have been misled, and that sometimes he wants to send them a message. I suppose that was money and doesn't reach because maybe through the channels of NRM there's too much corruption there. I think that's what's meaning. I mean, this issue of corruption that started in 1986, coming through the 10-point program, 35 years later, as NRM, you've failed to win the battle against corruption. It is actually increasing.
Yeah, but I think NRM...
And I could feel the frustration of the president in his speech about the system being corrupt.
First of all, I'd like you to allow me. My brother here used the word integrity. Integrity starts when you're young, Ongoya. I would like to take this opportunity to tell you that you do not have integrity. Because if you had integrity, you would not tell us lies about elections where clearly somebody else won. That's point number one. You went to court and you withdrew. If you had gone to court and proved to us that actually what you're saying is true, probably today we would have a different talk completely. My dear friend, I do not agree with the 4,000 people in Kololo. I do not agree. Me as Babu. In fact, I hear during the debate, even the Secretary General did not agree of NRM. There are people within NRM who did not agree with that. However, everybody who went to Kololo did a COVID test. All the people who went there did COVID tests. That's the argument they were giving. So I would like to say he's got a point, maybe, that why do they do that when they refused us during the campaign? He might have a point there. And that is something I cannot argue about because it was done yesterday. However, I wanted us to stop spinning. Everything we get, we spin it. No. We have to respect each other in this country. I have a lot of respect for Bongwehi. And let me tell you, when I first met him, what I told him. When he told me who he was, I was very impressed. And I even told him what I would have wanted them to do for him. Now, I respect everybody. What I don't want is when young people begin to spin everything out of context. They have come here with a narrative of saying that all old people are bad. Not all old people are bad. That is totally unfortunate. There are some old people who actually would like them to do well, would like them even to do better. So when I said pole pole, I did not mean because they were young. I meant it as a political party. There is a way you can do this thing and build yourself into a formidable party. Now, from there, I would like to see the level of consciousness of all of us. The level of consciousness, because he used that word. And I think the narrative has to change. How do we bring this country so that all of us, including their party, can have a peaceful means of being in the country? These problems we've had this time, we have learned a lot of things. If there were army people who crossed the line and did something wrong, I agree with him, they should be tried. And this game of saying investigation should also not continue. I agree with him entirely. But what I don't agree is to use a generality for everybody in this country and think that only young people have got the answer to the problems of this country. No. All Ugandans, and by the way, let me tell you something else. Every time you push old people out, you're actually violating their human rights because they have got the rights as you have the rights. And some of them are free to even start a party.
But I don't think somebody's saying old people should go out.
No.
He's talking about his
no,
system
because he keeps on saying old people, young people. No. And anybody who despises them because they're young is also wrong. All I am trying to say, and he gets...
But in this discussion, I'm not hearing a problem with age. I'm just hearing a problem
No, he used this just now. He says young people are doing this. Nobody has talked about young people. We're talking about a party. And I respect the party. And he's a Secretary General. You cannot play around with a party which has got a complete group of people leading it. And the Secretary General, who I must respect, he's highly educated. He's one of our best. So when you put me here and you start saying that I have no integrity, I will not agree with you because I've got my own way of looking at things and I tell you things which might even help you. So listen to me a little bit more carefully.
Because you say the same. You'd be much better. You start saying, you know what, you have no integrity.
Who?
You just say that.
No, he said that I have no integrity.
And you said the same.
No, and actually,
no, excuse me.
say that.
For him not saying I have no integrity, he is the one who doesn't have integrity.
Well,
I was just answering him.
Just,
He said you people should have integrity. Who? Which people? You see, it's totally wrong to assume, but I've seen this now. Everybody who thinks he has got a problem with Museveni, everybody who has been a member of NRM, you have got a problem with him. I think that is also wrong. President Museveni happens to be the chairman of our party, but there are other members, and other members who are respectable people, who might not even agree with Museveni in certain instances. So when every time it's NRM, old people, I think I disagree there. I think what we should do here, we respect the older people who can do a good job. We respect the younger people who are very, very good. And let me tell you something. If I have a younger man in government who does a better job than an old man, why should I want the old man? So I think there's something totally wrong, even with their narratives. By pitting young people against old people is wrong. We should work together. We should look at this nation as our nation. And let me tell you what I want to see in this nation. I want to see a nation which respects everybody. And that's why when I was talking, I talked about power politics and the developmental politics. Everybody here is talking about power politics. Who becomes the next president? Who becomes this? No. Any president who gets into the chair in this country must look at developmental politics, because our biggest problem in this country today is poverty.
Okay, looks like you didn't want to respond on the president's frustration with corruption, because
with corruption?
That's a
Yeah,
question.
exactly.
Yeah, he said he always sent a message, it doesn't reach, because in between there are middlemen who maybe swallow the money.
Oh, the thing about the ghetto. First of all, I don't agree with the president that the ghetto is only got people who have got braided hair and who sing. The ghettos we have in Kampala, I represented Kampala Central, Kisenyi alone has 30,000 people. Not all of them are singers, not all of them have got braids, the ones who are moving with, what's his name, Mr. Bushaman? That is a group of people who are now saying they belong only to ghetto. Ghetto, what they're trying to describe as ghetto here is the congested area where our people live, and there are a lot of people there who do not even agree on some of the things that are going on. If you go to Kamocha alone, it's got 10,000 people. You go to Kivuru, they've got nearly 7,000 people. The people who are running around putting on yellow shirts, how many are they? They're not even 10,000. So when you're talking about our people and their plight, people who are living in poor areas, we should look at them from the level of those areas. So I don't agree even with that one. That one is something completely different.
So now, clearly, members of parliament are going to be sworn in this month, and they have any medical strength. NRM is such a juggernaut. How do you intend to ensure that maybe you can create impact in the legislation as we move forward? Because soon you're going to be appointing, I suppose, the leader of opposition as Noop. How do you work in this environment?
Yeah, thank you so much. And if you would kindly allow me respond to a few issues that the senior leader has raised here. One, I talked about integrity in the context of his statements on this show. I think it is important for leaders to be honest. And for me, if I see a leader who justifies the worst crimes against humanity and finds reasons to justify them, because people can always find reasons here and there to justify whatever they want to say, and so what I talked about was that we must have integrity and we must be honest. We must be honest as people in this country. He also said that we always try to throw the old people away, and I think I'm very glad that you responded to him. We are a political party that believes that everyone is important in this country. That is why we are the National Unity Platform. We believe that old people can guide us, can advise us, and also they have a role to play in shaping the destiny of this country. We have never stood anywhere and said that old people should go away and then we have only young people. No, a nation is built by all citizens.
But
what we've seen,
you are party president.
Yeah.
While speaking in the Bujiri, after the election, I think, of the Honorable Basalirwa, he's speaking, I remember speaking, and he was talking in Uganda. Why are they disturbing us? Siba miaka jaffe.
Yeah,
I mean, that was really putting a dichotomy.
No, certainly, of course.
Because I remember that.
No, actually, if you just go back and do a replay of this show, this very show, the idea of young people came from him. And, we are always trying to respond to that. When they say, oh, you don't have experience, or you're very young people, and we always remind them that you guys, when you came to power here, you were young people who actually saw that the country was not on the right path and decided to forge a way forward for this country. Unfortunately, it has been complete betrayal. I just love one of these books by John Kazuela, Betrayed by My Leader, and I think that's a feeling which many of these people who participated in that war, that's how they feel. So we've never said that all people have no role to play in this kind of situation. Maybe also quickly, before I answer your question, this question of the ghetto people. I think what we've seen is that General Museveni and his regime is only interested in politics and nothing else. How they stay in power is more critical to them than anything else. So because you have the Honorable Chagulanyi, formerly known as the ghetto president, now the ghetto people have a say. All of a sudden they're talking about the ghetto. I saw a letter written by him to one of these people talking about the musicians and that kind of thing. Previously, musicians were nowhere. when Honorable Chagulanyi comes up, he's an artist, all of a sudden they try to focus on that. Now, a leader does not need to first wait for the opponent or the competitor to come belonging to a certain group of people. So where are you leaving the doctors? So tomorrow, if you have a challenger who is a doctor, that's when you'll say, oh, actually, let me now start thinking about doctors. When tomorrow a teacher comes up, that's when you'll say, oh, let me now think about teachers. Because all these people, if you have a soldier or whatever, that's when you start thinking about them. Because that's the challenge we have. A government which just thinks about how to survive in power and not the welfare of the citizens of this country. And that's why you see all these challenges we have. Now, you're talking about our agenda, legislative agenda, and those other kinds of things. First of all, I'll tell you that our agenda, first and foremost, is struggle. Is struggle for liberation. Because we believe that the parliament is not doing what it is supposed to do. The judiciary, Captain Babu has repeatedly, he has talked about why we withdrew, how we withdrew the case from the courts. He's not talking about why. Because, I mean, look at the judiciary that we have. Look at what was going on in that court. And I would expect him to remember that after we had withdrawn that case, there was an incident where a justice of the Supreme Court was denied an opportunity to read her minority ruling, her minority judgment in that matter. So when you talk about the judiciary, when you talk about, so our agenda first and foremost is struggle. And whatever position we'll get, whether in parliament, whether in local government, wherever, we are going to be advancing the struggle for freedom and democracy in Uganda. That is first and foremost our preoccupation in this term.
Well, that's a good one. But this country is 75% or more young people. I don't see any problem when the young people want to come at the forefront of leadership of everything. After all, it is heavily young people, 30 and below, I suppose. And you pointed out that when President Yoweri Museveni wanted to go into leadership, he was in his 20s, in his 30s. Dr. Milton Obote was in his 30s. And so for 35 years, when the Captain Francis Babu were around, I mean, it's also important to sort of let the other generation also come and have it say on the table.
Who has refused? Are you saying that in this government, everybody who's in the civil service is old? Everybody who's in MTN is old? Everybody who's in SLTL is old? Everybody in the media is old?
Political power.
I think
political power.
You did not say that.
That's what we're talking about.
You said you are refusing them to come to the forefront.
No.
Then the forefront is political power means what? You want political power, not development. You want political power. And you want to use political power, use to every force you can to get into political power. This is where I disagree. There are many ways of getting into political power. The question is, are we going to use force or are we going to use a different route? How are we going to struggle? There are many ways, what did the British say? There are many ways to skin a cat. Now, the question is confrontation the best method? Is there a better method? Now, that is something we can sit down and debate another day. But the whole point is, that I'm trying to say, I don't like us to keep on spinning everything that we say. I get completely disturbed when people change what I have said. Now, a few minutes ago, he said, when you justify the wrong. I have not justified any wrong. I have said, why did that wrong happen? I did not say I justified it. And what he calls wrong, and I say, why did you say I justified it? Now, they said he will not go and swear in. It was all over the place. You keep on saying Museveni said this, Museveni, but they are here, all over the place. He will not go and swear. He will not swear.
Who said it?
He will not become a president. That's number one.
Who said it?
Number two, now they say, Taja Kufuga. That's another one. These things are being said, and when you say them, they are intelligence people who can find out who said them and where they started. There is a meal that is producing a lot of bad things on the media. There is a meal which goes on social media and says all sorts of bad things. I'll give you an example. There's one they sent to me recently where they said I was one of those who sat with Museveni about a few days ago, and that Museveni now is looking for us to shoot us. I've never met Museveni. Now, these kind of things are not good. And what I have found out with my brothers here, when you criticize them a bit, they become furious. They start calling you all sorts of names. They start changing the stories you have said. Listen, there's nothing wrong with having their party. There's nothing wrong with having your aim of saying you want to get into power, and you are going to use everything you can to get into power. That is fine. That's fine. You can go ahead and do it. You said that the justice lady was denied. According to the judiciary, they gave her a day which she did not want to follow. They gave her a day when she could read her judgment. She refused. Now, either the Chief Justice is wrong and the people of that court are wrong, or somebody is wrong. We cannot go on. You know, I'm sitting somewhere, I'm not part of that, and suddenly my brother is saying I should be able to justify why they withdrew the case. I can't, because I was not part of the case. I can only say, I was waiting, me as one of the few, for them to prove that there had been rigging of those elections to elect the president, and then I would pat them on the back.
Anyway, what the judge who was on the bench, what she said really did not depict the judiciary in a very good way. She's part of them, and whatever she said there showed us what there's something is wrong.
Kamara,
Yes.
let us be very careful. There are two sides to that story. There is a Chief Justice and his staff. There is a lady who sits on her bench, who is on his bench. The question is, did actually the Chief Justice give her another day and she refused? Or they are telling lies? Because they said, these are things you've got to prove. I can't prove them. I was not there. He is saying that, no, the lady is saying that the Chief Justice was wrong.
What I'm trying to say, she's on record having said many things,
yes,
but really what she was talking was depicting a picture that is not right in the judiciary.
I hope it is so, and I pray that what she said was true, but the Chief Justice has got a different story.
But also, I mean, logically speaking, I mean, I expect you to know how the judiciary functions. Where in this country have you ever seen a judgment being read, you know, that the majority judgment is being read today, and then the minority will be read 2 weeks later? Where have you ever seen it?
Well, I saw one in Kenya.
I mean,
I saw one in Kenya,
and that's why
when they were stopping the presidential elections, the lady who had a minority report was given to read it first, and then the other one made the final judgment. So that was a different approach.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Should she have been the one to read it first?
Was,
or read
the point is that
know.
It's in the same sitting. Anyway,
what does the rule say?
There are other reasons why we withdrew that case,
yes,
including affidavits, all the evidence that we had gathered being rejected by the court, including the double standards that were being exhibited by the court, including the Chief Justice saying that oral submissions are going to be made in only 30 minutes. All these were, and including, of course, the hobnobbing of the Chief Justice with the person we are complaining against, you know, being seen in public with him 3 times. These were reasons which were very, very clear, and they were there for everyone to see. But I want to remind him, you know, the problem I have sometimes is, really we should remember these things. General Museveni, just go and read what he wrote about the judiciary under Obote. And he described it as a tool of dictators to carry out their will, their despotic will. That's how he described it. Now he's here talking about using force to change government. We have been clear, we've been on record, that we are a non-violent, struggling group. We want to use non-violent methods to achieve our goals. But the person is here defending used violence to come to power. And he has used violence to stay in power against the will of the citizens.
Gentlemen, hold on to your points because we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll open the line so that you too can be a part of this discussion. You're going to see the numbers on the screen. Pick your phone and call us, and please make it precise and concise so that we can get many calls coming in. And should you be having a different idea or different view or maybe disagree with the panelists here, you can do that, but with respect. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guests tonight are Captain Francis Babu and David Louis Rubongoya. Now, Captain, we have a pandemic-battered economy, and we have such a huge debt
Yes.
And we keep accumulating.
Yes.
And, you know, in areas where we have our comparative and competitive advantage like agriculture, we seem not to have put a lot of emphasis there. How are you going to get out of this?
I'm so happy you're going to the developmental politics. I'm very, very happy, yes. I agree with you. We've got itching fingers for borrowing money.
The somebody has been itching on phone. And,
okay.
And let me first get them and then they can. Hello, I have a call online. Hello. 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 Okay, maybe. Okay, it looks like we have common challenges to that. We seem to have lost that line to the caller who was trying to get in touch. Yes, you could.
It's unfortunate that they have borrowed so much money. I don't know whether it was political or whether it was driven by looking for better methods of investment to spur the economy. A lot of this money that has been borrowed is mainly going to infrastructure. And the infrastructure is supposed to spur the economy in many different ways. For example, if you have roads going to Karamoja, Karamoja is supposed to be one of our rich areas, where we have all sorts of riches which we could actually exploit and make this country a better place to stay in. There are places in West Nile which is one of the best agricultural areas. They have got also, you know, Arabica coffee and many other things. They are very hardworking people. The people in the West are the same. You know, people in Bushenya are very hardworking people. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, they could be given very good infrastructure so that they can grow their things and bring them to town. Now, for development politics, which is my favorite, you've just hit should we continue to borrow? And why do we must give a good reason. I'm not saying they should stop borrowing, but what are they borrowing for? We should not just borrow for the sake of borrowing. Should we be able to balance, like you've just said? Should we put slightly more money in agriculture? Yesterday, the president said something that made me very happy when he said Kenya, Tanzania, Congo, Southern Sudan have agreed to buy some of our agricultural products. If that is so, are we intending to put in more money so that we can have products of a very good level? They've got a very good quality so that they can be bought in Kenya and in Tanzania. And so, when he talked about sugar, I was so happy because I've got friends who are involved in sugar. When you talk about maize, I become very happy if we can get enough maize to sell. My worry is, with all those markets, do we have the capacity to produce? And do we have the ability to make our farmers produce, you know?
But you know, all that to happen, then we should have seen the government putting emphasis in the area of agriculture much more. For example, when you look at how much money is appropriated in the area of agriculture, and how many people are involved in agriculture, you wonder, how do you put in 3% of your budget to about 80% of your population that is involved in the same sector?
I don't know if you speak in Uganda, but Osindi Sasutami. We need more money in agriculture.
Yeah, but this is the government you talk for.
No. I don't only talk to them when they are right or wrong. Listen, when they are wrong.
So they don't get it? Your colleagues don't get it?
No, they have other problems.
Which problems?
No, they have other problems. For example, a lot of money has gone in infrastructure and in security and in administrative cost of this government.
Yeah, but why have such a huge administrative cost and have so many? We're going to have now members of parliament 500. Must we be having all these? What is the justification of having so many ministers, each one of them with the land cruiser and sharpshooters and whatever moving, you know, pushing all of us off the road? What is the justification of all these ministers?
You're talking exactly my language. I say that if President Museveni wants to show us that in this term he's a very serious man.
Sometimes I don't know where to place you, Captain Babu, because you're talking about them and they. I don't know who. Then where are you anchored?
I am not in government. It will be unfair for me to talk for a minister who is in government, or for somebody who is going to do the budget, the Minister of Finance. You're now telling me I should talk for the Minister of Finance? I can't. I think you are being a little bit unfair there. I can only talk about generally the government. What things...
So you can actually see the failures of the government?
Oh, I've got a lot of things that I know about them. For example, I would have wanted President Museveni this time, immediately after Parliament has sworn in and the speakers have been elected, I think he should elect 21 cabinet ministers and 21 alternate ministers. 42, full stop. Let him show us by that one. That will give us an indicator that he's intending for a change.
David, what do you make of the cost of public administration vis-a-vis the size of our economy?
You know, but that's what we're trying to talk about here, and that is why we are trying to change leadership. You know, you cannot come here and say that you're seeing all these wrong things, but for some reason you say you're interested in developmental politics, and then you say the system should continue. It should completely just be off because it has failed. If a government fails to serve the people, it is because that's the most important thing that it should be doing, serving the people. But if it cannot, then they have no business in government. And that's why I'm saying that the preoccupation, and that's what happens with longevity in power. The problem with this country is longevity in power. That now the preoccupation is one and simple: staying in power. That's why he's talking about a lot of money going in security. Uganda is not at war. Why do we see, you know, yesterday I was just observing some of the people on the streets of Kampala, very new guns, you know, we were addressing a press conference the other day at our offices, and 3, you know, very big armored vehicles, clearly new, came and parked right in front of our offices. You see all the, you saw what was happening yesterday with fighter jets flying all over Kampala. This is where the money goes that we're talking about. Then the false intelligence, you know, that they know that Honorable Kyagulanyi is going to swear himself in, I think because someone wants to get some money from, you know, the regime. They go with the false intelligence information, say these people are up to some mischief. Therefore, the government now releases money. And so this is all nugatory expenditure. This is money which should be going into health care, which should be going into agriculture, which should be going into education, which should be going into you know, development, which should be going into the welfare of the citizens. So what is very contradictory is for someone to say that I agree that the government is, you know, look at the borrowing that we are doing. Ridiculous, because you look at the borrowing vis-a-vis the services that we are getting, and you do not see a nexus. So what is very contradictory is for anyone to say that this is wrong, that, you know, I don't agree with the way government is spending and whatever, but on the other hand, you say they should still be there. They have no business being in government. And that's why, look at what Magufuli tried to do, may his soul rest in peace, in Tanzania. For 5 years, I was just looking, by just doing simple things, cutting down on unnecessary expenditure, you know, foreign travels, curbing corruption, and not just in word, because, you know, in this country we know where corruption begins, right, from State House and spirals to every other sector in this country. So Magufuli comes in Tanzania, tries his best to fight corruption, tries to do these things, and you know what? The promise which this regime has been promising of middle-income country, they were able to achieve it 5 years ahead of the time they expected to achieve it. Simple, by just doing simple things. And if you look at our manifesto as NUP, these are the things which we promised to Ugandans, to say that we are going to cut down on public expenditure. You have all these, you know, duplicated government agencies. You have all these RDCs. You talked about the ministers moving with convoys around Kampala, and you just do not get it. So I do not expect us to see anything different in this in this tenure. It is, I mean, you remember the last time they said it was Chisanja hakuna mchezo, but it actually turned out to be Chisanja mchezo, because mchezo sana. I mean, we actually moved from worst to worst, so to say, and I don't know where we're headed now. It seems we're headed for even tougher times.
You want to revert to that?
No. In fact, it's good he talked about Magufuli. Magufuli doesn't come outside the party that has been ruling that country for the last time. He's part of that party. He did not agree with that party. In fact, at one time, he went to the president and told him, Mr. President, people want to kill me because I've refused bribes in making roads. People within the party can tell the leadership what they are doing is not right.
Because
so I don't agree with him.
The same party, but there's a lot of renewal in that party.
That's right. I don't agree with him.
There's the renewal of leadership.
I do not agree with him that people who are in NRM cannot criticize NRM. That one, he better put it behind, because there are people within NRM, and that's what sometimes President Museveni knows, that there are people in NRM who will tell him this is not right. And I've just told him I want the president in his own way. Since he won the elections, I cannot change that. We failed to go to court. We started giving all sorts of reasons, and the reasons we are giving are not making any sense. But let us try and say, since he's already the president, what do we want him to do? He's there. The next thing I want him to do, let him reduce his cabinet. 21, according to our constitution, 21 cabinet minister, it will allow him to have 21 alternate ministers. That will be an indicator that is going to go to your level of agriculture that you're talking about. I'm going to catch him on his own word he made yesterday that we want to export in all these countries. To do that, we need to put money in the agriculture. Now, instead of me being negative, power change. No. We're talking about developmental change. He's already there. So I can only ask him, Mr. President, can you kindly please look at our health? Could you look at our education? Could you look at our social services? Could you look at all the things that we require? Now I can ask, because the elections are over. Now, when I talk about administrative costs, I've been very critical about administrative costs for the last 2 years. I want that parliament reduced. To do that, you have to amend the constitution. And to do that one, you need to sit down and do it nicely. And say, this and this and this, we must reduce the number of members of parliament, let's say to 250,000 people per member of parliament, which gives us about 200 members of parliament.
I don't see them legislating to reduce their numbers themselves.
Rubongoya's group will do it, because they want to change.
I want to open the lines again. I've been having people who are trying to get in touch and have views. You have the numbers on the screen. Maybe you agree with David or you don't. Let me check the callers online. Hello. I have a call online. Hello. There's one thing. Okay, let me try this. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Cosmas Messi. I wanted to ask that guy of... yes, please?
Nope. David Rubongoya.
Yes, I want to ask you, Rubongoya, what was Bubani meaning when he said, I want Mboko, when he was giving one speech?
Could you repeat that, sir?
Yeah, I heard Bobi Wine. He was giving a speech in one of almost there in Kampala. He talked of I want Mboko. We put there Mboko. What was he trying to mean? He was trying to mean to the people and put Mboko everywhere. I don't want to know that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I hope he had it, but
I didn't make sense of it.
Okay, I'm going to take another call online. I have a call online. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Mujela rekabali musudi obampita ambassador of fire base matete ka muzeru bongoya ukora musizanyo ne kapitani babu zenkuze mpira kapitani babu olaba Uganda emyaka abiri ne olaba ne Uganda ey'emyaka gino lusawa esinga okusanyusa gavumenti eno time eno eriko esobola okuwamba abaana babu gavumenti gy'oli mu kuwaana oliwo NRM gy'oli mu kuwaana esobola okuwamba abaana ne babasibira obwereere ne babateekako magazini ez'amasasi abamu baana bali kitaalya tebalina musango we gavumenti ya Museveni gy'owolereza gavumenti ya Museveni naye bange egenda kulayirira ku bubbi bwe yabba obubbi obululu ne bakuba
Okay. Thank you so much. Captain Babu, you'll respond to that.
Now or
but later, not now. Let me take another call online. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Bushenyi.
What's your name, sir?
I'm called Moses.
Moses, you're on air.
I'm called from Bushenyi.
Okay.
I'm called Moses. Lekindaba kubuza omusajja wa Nuupu. Kuko ibulira yali myaka lulu. Yagamba yajasoma amannya g'abanyankole nnyo yali atategeeza tribalism n'ekirala
The problem is our caller from Bushenyi, you are listening to your own echo, and so it was confusing you.
The TV is on. That's
Yeah, yeah. So I have another call online. Hello. Hello. Okay, you have also done the same. You have left the TV volume on, and so it's sending an echo to you. It's confusing you. Please, when you call and you go through, you turn down the volume. You turn down the volume of your TV. Then you'll have a better conversation with us. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm called Otieno Samuel from Tororo.
Otieno Samuel Tororo, you're on air.
Yes, I want to ask Mr. Babu. They were talking about the other time, our children are still at home, not schooling. They were talking of giving out radios.
that budget was there. What is the government doing for the children which is at home right now up to now? They are not schooling.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Otieno from Tororo.
I agree with him.
Okay, maybe I'll take 2 more calls, and then my guests will have to respond to those and make concluding arguments. I have a call online. Hello. Hello. Hello, I have a call online. Hello. I think there's a problem with that line, unfortunately. I can't hear you so well, so I'll have to drop it and pick another line. I have another line. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Shanga
From where? We have communication challenges that line, and unfortunately we didn't hear what you wanted to say. Let me try to take the last caller online. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm called Aziz, calling from Kisasi.
Aziz in Kisasi, you are on air.
Yes. So what I need to tell you, government expect every good thing from it. Look at how elections were conducted. Sure. And you see Mr. Babu's on air, he started saying that
okay, it's a pity we lost that line to Aziz in Kisasi, but you have made your point somehow, and I think Mr. Babu has picked that. My producer is telling me we can just pick 1 more call online.
Good.
And there are many of you. Hello. Hello. All right, we've closed the lines. Thank you so much for all of you who have tried to call, and I know many of you are still online, but unfortunately it's a question of time. It's not that I don't want you to speak. So Captain Francis Babu, you have some
There's
questions?
a Luganda one, which is very good.
Even,
it's the only one I have, really. The others...
Sebo,
mukama wange oyo ayogedde mu Luganda, owebale nnyo kubuuza. Naye byeyogedde tebibadde bituufu, sirina gwe mpaanye. Nze siyinza kuwaana muntu asse bantu bwe kiba nga kituufu. Ate sijja kuwaana muntu akutte bantu kubanga simanyi lwaki babakutte. Kye nnyinza okugamba kye kino. Bw'aba nga waliwo ebisobye, abakuumi b'eddembe nga bamenya amateeka, gavumenti n'ababakulira bandibadde babateeka mu kaguli ne bababuuza. Emyaka nze gye mbadde mmanyi bonna batwalibwa mu buguli ne babuulizibwa. Bwebanga babasanze nga bamenya amateeka babatwala ne babasiba, oba edda baali nga babakuba n'amasasi nga basirikale gye bayita martial court. Naye omukulu Bongo yaŋŋambye nti kasooka nga bibeerawo baga nti babuuliriza tebikolebwanga. Bwe kiba nga kituufu si kirungi. Balina okubabuulirizaako ne bamanya oyo amenya amateeka n'atamenye mateeka. Naye waliwo kye njagala okwogera wano. Teri muntu agambye nti okulonda kwali kulungi nnyo. Wayinza okuba nga waliwo ebyasoba. Era nabo baabikkiriza. Era abakulu bano baali bagenda mu kkooti nali ndowooza nti bajja kubijjayo tubitegeere. Naye wano tusigadde ku mboozi. Emboozi si mbi. Kirungi n'ogamba nti bakola bati ne bakola bati. Naye munnange tunaategeera tutya nga byogera bituufu oba si bituufu. Ate mukama wange mbadde njagala kusaba. Bwe mubanga mwogera ebigambo, toyinza kugamba nti waliwo omuntu awaana. Ekyokutta omuntu kintu kikulu nnyo 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 nnyo. Naye kye njagala okukkiriza nti gavumenti yakkiriza nti waliwo abattibwa, era ne bagamba nti waliwo n'abo abattibwa nali simanyi abagenda okuweebwa ssente oba baazibawa oba nedda ekyo sikimanyi. Akati bw'oba oyogera nange era mwami Mongoya namugambye nze njogera kubanga njagala ebintu bibeere bya mazima. Njagala tubeere ku mazima enjuuyi zonna. Naye mmwe abalabika nga muyina oludda lwe muwagira temwagala muntu abagambako. Bwe babagambako nga muvuma ate waliwo n'ekirala. Bwe twali mu kulonda kuno mwami Bongoya wali abantu eyo mukyala baali batiisatiisa abantu obutagenda kulonda nga bava mu kibiina kyammwe era abantu abo baboogerako.
I don't know. You also had a question in Uganda. I doubt whether your Uganda is as good.
They are not very good.
No, I can actually respond to that in Uganda if that's what is required. Sebo ambassador Firebase webale nnyo ekibuuzo. N'omukulu ayogedde ku nsonga ya tribalism era mpuliddeyo ekibuuzo kyesitegedde ekyo ekibadde kikwata ku mbooko. Naye okuddamu omukulu byayogeddeko ekisooka tosobola gamba nti tusooke tuwulirize tulyoke tulabe abantu abakwatibwa bwemage oba nedda, kubanga bano abantu tulina semateeka mu ggwanga lino. Semateeka eragira nti omuntu bw'omukwata mu ssaawa 24 mu ssaawa 48 muleete mu kooti. Abantu betwogerako kati abamu bali mu nkomyo okumala emyezi 3, 4, 5, abamu batute emyaka nga bali mu nkomyo. So tosobola gamba nti kati nze nja kusooka investigating oba tubuulirize oba ki, kubanga kyeraga mu lwatu. Ekirala mpozi omukulu agambye nti bino ebintu yali asuubira nti tugenda bijjayo mu kooti okubba obululu okwaliwo. Sebo twagezaako okugenda mu kooti, kooti negaana obujulizi bwaffe, kubanga kyova olaba omusango twagujjayo, kubanga twali tututa obujulizi, kooti negaana obwaniriza. Singa babwaniriza twalisigadde mu kooti ne tubwanjulayo bwonna. Mpozi ekisemberayo ddala kyoyogeddeko Sebo ensonga y'okutiisatiisa. Nze sitegeera bw'ogamba nti aba NUP baali batiisatiisa, so nga twalaba okutiisatiisa kwava ku direct kuva ku president w'eggwanga lino Yoweri Museveni, gweffe gwe tugamba nti aliwo mu bukyamu kubanga abantu eggwanga teryamulonda, naye yavaayo n'atiisatiisa abantu era ne bagenda mu maaso, amagye ne bagadeployinga, ba LDU ne batandika kukutta abantu, ne bakwata Honorable Kyagulanyi nga amaze okunominatinga n'ebirala bwe bityo. Kakati bw'oba oyogedde ku kutiisatiisa, okutiisatiisibwa okusinga okwo oba okujjawa.
All right, I want to thank you gentlemen. Maybe very briefly, 10 seconds, your parting shot, Captain.
Oh well, mbadde njagala mulungereza kati.
Otherwise, I will not.
I'm sorry. They completely changed my channel. Let me put back to the English channel. Now, what I would like to see, as from now onwards, I would like to see people who oppose government oppose it. I'm not saying they should not oppose it. Methods differ, of course. I would like the people in government to listen to what some people are accusing them of doing. The book of President Museveni, that's why I brought it, he calls it Milestone. In here he says unfinished business. I want him in his book to finish. For example, he talks about the health. He said expired drugs, drug theft, no drug in hospital, absenteeism, inadequate equipment. If this is so and he knows it, we want to see action. If agriculture is not very well looked after, he has got nuts, he's got Operation Wealth Creation, he has got people in the Ministry of Agriculture. We want to see more money in that department and would like to see it work. So when my parting shot is to request that we find a way, and now we need a dialogue in this country. We need a very strong dialogue. Those who are around the president and those who do not agree with the president.
Okay. David, your parting shot.
Ours is struggle for liberation, ours is struggle for freedom and democracy. And I want to, call upon all Ugandans not to lose hope, not to lose heart. Thank you, all the people of Uganda, for voting for change. I mean, majority of you, I'm sure, voted for a new dispensation. And I can tell you that, regimes like this one elsewhere have thrown themselves in and done all sorts of things, but the people eventually prevail. And so I want to just encourage the people of Uganda to continue struggling until this country is free. Not for us to just change leadership at the top, but so that the people of Uganda can have better services, can have better healthcare, can have better education, can live in a country where they are free to express themselves and to think and to have the freedom of conscience, the freedom of expression, the freedom of assembly, and all other fundamental human rights.
I just want to, before we even to really conclude, there's something I want to digress about, Captain Francis Babu and you, because what I have seen on the streets of Kampala is so nagging, because people no longer follow rules, no longer follow order. People in government, sometimes they have turned their vehicles into like ambulances. Everybody has a siren. Everybody has flickering.
Talk on it.
Everybody has flickering lights.
Yes.
Everybody is just a big person.
A culture of indiscipline.
There's a lot of indiscipline, nothing works. There's no order. It's a jungle down there.
Correct.
And now you cannot even blame the border boys when they drive on a one way and they come.
Not only one way. They when they move, cars are moving, they're coming from the other side.
I mean, as if there is no order down there. There's totally no order.
Patrick, let me just say, it is simple. the fish rots from the top. If there is no order in government, if the leadership does not show direction, if parliament does not show direction, then that's what you'll get, the common person on the street.
I'm not proud of my city. Down there,
Abaganda,
all of us are
and that's
just
what I'm saying.
Abaganda say, ennyonyi enkulu yeyigiriza ento okubuuka.
What's wrong with these Nyonyi Nkulus now? Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much.
No, but before you go,
yes.
The pandemic, anybody on this television, anybody who goes on media, please talk about the pandemic. Our people are going to die. The Indian flu has come here. It's a double problem. If I have been in this town, people don't use masks anymore. People sit on boda with small children. People yesterday, in that 4,000 people, some of them did not have masks on. As I was watching today at the mosque in Old Kampala, my friend, nobody had a mask. We're in a lot of trouble.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Captain Francis Babu. I want to thank you so much, David Lewis Lubongoya, and all of you who have been watching this program. I want to thank you for your great company. I know we have a great country, and I know we are great people. Yes, we have had a tumultuous past, but I believe we can have a better future. Good night, and God bless Uganda.